We begin with the latest on Venezuela and captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. He is behind bars right now, awaiting his U.S. court appearance on drug charges on Monday. Top U.S. officials are calling his seizure from Caracas by the elite U.S. Delta Force a law enforcement operation.
This was not an invasion. We didn't occupy a country. This was an arrest operation. This was a law enforcement operation. He was arrested on the ground in Venezuela by FBI agents, read his rights, and removed from the country.
Maduro and his wife are charged with narco-terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation, and weapons offenses. U.S. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the Trump administration did not have the authority to conduct the mission.
They did not just do ships off the water. They went inside Venezuela, bombed civilian as well as military places. And it's a violation of the law to do what they did without getting the authorization of Congress.
Meantime, President Trump said the U.S. would run the oil-rich nation temporarily. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. won't take a day-to-day role in governing Venezuela. With me now to discuss is Eric Ham. He's CTV's U.S. political analyst. Hello there, Eric. Good to see you. Why didn't President Trump go to Congress before entering Caracas?
Would have only continued to be a situation where Congress would have actually most likely rejected what the president was doing. When we heard from Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, saying there that this was a law enforcement issue, that actually went out the window when Donald Trump stood before the press and said that the United States would now take over the nation and, more importantly, take over their vast oil reserves. That moved it from a law enforcement issue to now a nation-building operation where the United States has unilaterally taken over a country. Basically, what we're seeing from what the United States did in Caracas is no different what Vladimir Putin is attempting to do right now with Ukraine.
Now, some but not all Republicans, Eric, were on side with the president's decision. With so many domestic issues around affordability, the cost of health care, food, will arresting Maduro be popular with his supporters? Is this an example of America first?
Well, we've already heard from one of his, at one time, one of his most loyal MAGA supporters, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who actually believes this is in fact not what America first is. And quite frankly, what Donald Trump had been actually spewing as an ideology since he was first elected was a more isolationist approach to U.S. foreign policy. Now what we're seeing here is military adventurism in the region, which after that raid, of course, the president now says and believes that he can do what he wants. In fact, there's been a warning shot across the bow to countries like Colombia, Cuba, and Mexico, to say nothing of what might happen now with Canada, where we know the president stated even when he was first elected that he would be willing to take Canada through economic force. And I believe the president is actually now believing that he can, given how emboldened he was after this mission with very little pushback or resistance from lawmakers.
And that's where I wanted to go next with you, because there is a huge amount of concern, as you point out, about the precedent that this sets. Greenland saying again today that President Trump needs to back down on threats of annexing the country. What is stopping Trump from going into other countries, Eric?
Nothing at all. We are now seeing a total pushback of the world order that was implemented after World War II. And right now, Donald Trump is carving up the globe, going after oil and mineral-rich nations that he believes will benefit the country, and he's using it under the guise of national security and potential threats to the homeland. And basically, what we're seeing in terms of how President Trump is going after his domestic and political enemies is what we are seeing in terms of how he is engaging on the world stage, based on what we're seeing now with Venezuela, somehow suggesting that Nicolas Maduro is a cartel-leading oligarch somehow, even after pardoning the former president of Honduras, who was found guilty in American courts for trafficking in 400 tons of cocaine. But again, this was all a guise to, again, go after the oil-rich nation. In fact, yesterday during Donald Trump's presser, He mentioned the word oil 25 times, far more than he mentioned the people of Venezuela, and even more importantly, the term democracy.
Eric Ham for us. Eric is CTV News U.S. political analyst. Eric, thank you for that analysis.